Hey all, so we're going to do a little demo here of passing form data via a webhook and creating a contact in GoHighLevel. And so there's a couple things we need to do in order to set this up so that it'll work. Keep in mind, even though there's a few steps to do, that once you do it, it's done. You'll have your credentials set up in N8N, and you'll have, of course, a copy of your workflow, and you can copy and paste those nodes and reuse them again, and you won't have to go through some of the setup portions that you need to do to get it going. But first off, over here in these notes, so what we've done is gone into GoHighLevel. I have a demo sub account, and we need to get, I always grab the location ID. There's some places that we'll use that in some other videos, but we need to get the API key for the sub account. All right. And then we need to have our webhook URL, so we know what that is. And in this case, I'm going to use Postman to send data in form data to the webhook for the test in this case. All right. So in GoHighLevel, you would, let me move this out of the way, you would go to your sub account, and your location ID is right here, business profile, location ID, and you just want to grab this portion right here. You can just click the little charm there and copy it, and then you can see that I've pasted it right up here in my notes, okay? And then just below here, you're gonna get your API key, okay? And then copy that, okay? And we'll put that right there. Now, while I've got the API key in my clipboard, I'm gonna head back over to N8N, and we're going to create a new credential for this. Now, there's two approaches to creating the credentials. You can just do it from right within the node and create a credential, or you can go back out to the workflows and create the credential. I'll just go ahead and do that. I'll show you where that's at really quick. So if I go back out here to home and I go to credentials, they've moved it. It used to be over here doing some stuff with the sidebar, but you can say create credential right there. Actually, let's see, hi, API, there we go. Let's say continue, and then just pop your API key in there. Say save, see if we get a green. That means we've connected now. When we use this one, we want to make sure that we label it so we know which one it was for. N8N demo. That way I know which one it's for, because you have to do this for each sub account if you're sending data to different sub accounts. And the API key in this case identifies where to send that, because it's using the same URL to pass that information, your data, into GoHighLevel. But it needs an identifier, and the identifier in this case is the API key as well as authentication. So it helps identify that sub account. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll save that and close it. That popped up. Go back to here. We've got our N8N workflows, back into our demo. And so I've already added a high-level node here. And right now, as of August 7th, these last couple revisions in N8N, they updated the node for the newer GoHighLevel OAuth 2 API, because the version 1 API is going to be deprecated before long. But I still have a copy of the version 1. We're going to do version 1 today. So a little simpler, and then I'll do another video with OAuth 2 and setting up the credentials in that. So in this case, we would go and there's our credential right there, N8 demo. Okay. Now, if you wanted to create one, you can do it right from here and to go through the same process. Okay. Instead of going all the way back the way I did earlier. Okay. And so that is added, and we're not going to pay attention to any of this at the moment. Okay. So I'll just save. So that sets up our high-level node. Then we would add, a webhook, which I already have here, but you can see that you can just add a webhook, boom, and you're good. But we've already got one added, and I've connected it, okay, to the node. Now we're going to go into the webhook, and we got to get this URL. Okay, so in this case, first we have to do a test. All right, and whenever we do a test, we have to listen for that test each time. And you'll notice the difference between the test rule and the production rule is just this little hyphen and test right there. Okay, get the whole thing. That's the only difference between the two URLs, so that we know we're doing a test. Now, why do we do a test? Well, we got to pass in the data, and then it'll be able to utilize that so that we can then build out mapping for it. Once we've built it out, then we can set it production, change our URL on our source, and then we're good to go. Okay, so in this case, we've got the test here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And before I set it to listen, so today, instead of setting up a form to submit the data, I'm just using Postman, and Postman is a kind of a development tool, and you can do API calls and stuff with it. So we're going to put I created a new post here, all right, and it's the same one. And that's another thing, you want to set your type to post, okay, versus get in this case. And I've created, as though this was a form data, I've created my form fields, first name, last name, email, phone, zip code, state. I put in some data in there, and that's all good. Now we're not going to use any authentication, no authorization, right? You can see the authentication, none in this case. Now you can add authentication. I do recommend it on some of your more critical stuff. Keep things safe. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click listen, and we're going to go back to Postman, and we're going to post that data. And you can see it says workflow started, which means it's a good sign. Go over here, and boom, we've got our data. All right, this is the same data that we just passed via this API. Now, just think of this as though you had a web form, and it passed in the first name, last name, and it sent it to N8N, and now you've got that data. Okay, so now that I have it, I'm going to pin it, save it, that way I can use it for my mapping. Okay, so I'll pin it, go back to the canvas. Now I'm going to open up GoHighLevel. All right, now I've already mapped these, but I'm going to go ahead and remove a couple of these. I'll just remove them all, where you can just see the whole thing. That out there. And what you can do is you want to find your fields that you just passed in. Okay, and so we come down here, in this case, body, we've got first name, so we're going to drag this over to first name. Now, I should back up, okay, so these aren't here by default, first name, last name, postal code, and state. We've added those fields, okay? So once I've added those, then I can pass data into them. Email and phone are there by default, all right? They'll always be in this node. They're key identifiers for the data. All right, so first name, last name, okay, email, we've got a phone, we've got a postal code or zip code, and we've got a state. Okay, so now, and you can see right underneath there, you can see the data. It's giving sort of a sample showing of it. Okay, so now we've got that. Now if I hit test, then this data should show up in GoHighLevel. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit test, and boom. So we've got a good ID. So looks like everything worked, added. So let's go over to GoHighLevel, and let's go back to our demo here and contacts. And it can take a few seconds for that data to show up, so we'll refresh. And there it is, okay? Just added right now. And that is basically how simple it is to, get data via Webhook. into GoHighLevel via N8N. All right. There are some other tricks, some other caveats, and some other customizations you can do, but in a nutshell, um, that's how you would set it up. So I hope that helps. I guess I should add that once you've got it set up and you've tested it and you're sure your data is all good, and I'm going to go ahead and go back here really quick, and I'm going to delete this contact because we'll just recreate it again. What does it say? Delete. Always want to confirm. So let's get rid of that. And we'll give it a second. Kind of wish GoHighLevel or GHL was a little bit quicker on that part, but there you go. Okay, it's gone. All right, so in N8N, so now we've tested it, we've mapped our fields in Node to create it, that contact data. Now we want to take it out of test mode. So now we're going to switch to the production role, which removes that test. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to change it here in my post. Okay, and then I will unpin it. This will remove this data. If you have it pinned, which you need to do during a test so you can set up your mappings, but if you leave it pinned, the new data doesn't pass through. So we'll unpin it, and we'll say back to canvas. A quick little save. It should be. Usually it's gone. Yeah, don't worry about it. So now we'll go to production, and that's all good. Okay, so now I'm going to set this to live. All right, so now this would be, think of this as production, and this is your webhook that's going to then create contacts in GHL. Now this is pretty simple, just 2 nodes. You might have some other things you want to do, create an opportunity task, things like that, but we're just showing a point to point here. All right. So now we've changed this to our production webhook role, and we're just going to send that. And because I set it to production, it should just go through. If it was still on test, I would get an error back here, and it wouldn't go through. So let's go ahead and say, and it said workflow started, which means it went through. Okay, and we can check that. See that one item went through. We can check the executions, and we can see that it succeeded. And what's cool is in the executions, you can see the data, okay, coming through. All right, and you can see everything that passed. Now, if we go back over to GHL, refresh that, there's our contact. Okay, pretty reasonably straightforward and simple to do. The caveat here that, well, people might be saying, well, what is this postman thing? Well, just using that to testing. So your form might submit to a webhook and to get that data into GHL. This was a question that was asked on one of the other videos, is how do I do that? And that is how you do that. In other videos, I'll show like an actual web form from a standalone source versus a GHL form posting to N8N, and hopefully that'll help in that situation as well. Alrighty, peace out.